It's All Things Considered, and I'm Dave Lawrence. We've been speaking with artists who are sharing their stay-at-home experiences with us during the pandemic, and today continuing a two-part special with guitar legend Al Meola. At hawaiipublicradio.org, you can hear all the conversations and part one of this interview, where Al details how the pandemic has touched him professionally and personally. He was about to start a tour for his latest album, Across the Universe, which, as he explains, is not his first release of Beatles material.
This is the second one that I've done. The first one has to be about 8 years ago. And I was on tour in Europe, going through kind of a difficult time in my life, but I just had to think of something to do on my days off during the tour in Europe. And since my musicians lived in Europe, they would go home on those days if we had a 3-day break or whatever. I was stuck in a hotel thinking what I'm going to do. So this was something that was in the back of my mind for a long time, to someday get to a point where I can lend my own kind of style to some of the classics of pieces that I still love and listen to quite often, the Beatles. And I was looking for studios in the area that I was in, which was at that time Prague, which I couldn't find anything decent enough. And then it just dawned on me, wow, what about Abbey Road?
Right.
Wouldn't that be cool? And so I made that happen. Found a friend in London who sussed it out for me, and he called me back and said, man, they're open. They got 1 day open.
Right.
The rest of the time they're doing mostly soundtracks and commercials. Not a lot of bands can afford that anymore. The days of big record budgets are over.
Sure.
So this was kind of a present to myself, where I was going to take my own money, not wait for a record deal, and just make a record at Abbey Road. Of course, that 1 day turned into 3 days. I got 3 tracks done. I was in total heaven at the time because it really felt like I was a 5-year-old experiencing Disney World for the first time.
Sure.
It was that kind of thrill that you don't get as an adult. I got it again. It was the same place they recorded those classics, same floor, same walls, same equipment largely. So then I went back to the States with the intention of finishing it, and I couldn't match the sound, whether it would be in my studio or in New York City. So I figured, well, I better go back because I already set the bar so high.
Right.
But before I went back, I decided to rent a house and get away so I could just focus on arranging pieces like Penny Lane and other ones that I Am the Walrus, pieces like that. And I just wanted to get away from the traffic. So
This is the Long Island story.
Yeah, you heard about this one?
I love it. It's great. Keep going.
Yeah, so I'm in a restaurant. I'm looking through a paper for listings, and it was right before Labor Day. And really, there wasn't much available unless it was like, $1 zillion on the beach. So I found this one little ad at the very bottom of the paper, called the guy up, and the guy says, look, I normally don't rent my house out, but I'm considering it this time. And if you need it for 4 or 5 days, maybe I could do it. I don't know who you are. You say you're a musician, but you sound like a nice guy. I said, well, thank you. He calls me back. He goes, look, I got to tell you something. I can give you the house, but you got to be cool because your next door neighbor is kind of a famous pop guy. And I went, okay, that'll be cool. You mind telling me who it is? He goes, Paul McCartney. And I just dropped my spoon in the soup, and it was kind of like the bucket wish list.
Right.
It was the first one on the list, I always wanted to meet Paul or Robert De Niro or something. So here I was, the next door neighbor for that period of time of Paul, right? Hoping that he'd be there. So I put in my GPS. Next day I go out there, and there he is, right there in the driveway with his wife and some friends. I got to meet him that night and a couple of days after that. And I just witnessed him pulling in and out of the driveway with his brown Rolls Royce. And he alternated between a brown Rolls Royce and a dark green Bronco, I remember. And I'm on the porch watching him pull in and out of the driveway, running in and out of the house while I'm arranging Penny Lane and everything. And it's going, this is so surreal, man. Oh, God. So we go 1 year later, and this is after going back to Abbey Road and everything, which I told him I was doing. And I hope he didn't think I was a stalker. But a whole year later, I come back with my then girlfriend, who she's now my wife, and we had the finished CD. She goes, why don't you go next door and give it to him? I said, no, I can't. She goes, I'll go. I said, really? So she goes, yeah, write him a letter first. So I wrote him a letter. I forget what I said in it, but I stuck it in the CD. She went over. We see him pull in the driveway. She runs over and gives the CD to the person at the door. I don't even know if you got to hear it, but that was my first record. Then the second record was an important one to do, the new one, because this one I wanted to do with full production. I
Mm,
wanted to have the bass go on, and I want to have drums, percussion, all kinds of things, orchestra. And Abbey Road, it was just with my acoustic guitar. Plus, it wouldn't have been affordable to do a big production thing at Abbey Road anyway.
sure.
So this time I wanted to take my time and really just kind of hone this one and include all of the elements and overdubs and things of that nature that I hoped to do on the first one, but I got to do on the second one. Of course, with all different songs, though.
You completely make your own versions out of all of these, yet you bring people just enough of the original reference point to evoke that nostalgia in their minds. It's a great mix.
Like the first record was more avant-garde moments where people might not get it. Was Michelle, the song Michelle.
Right.
It was intentional on this record to
Stay closer.
blend it, come closer together, but you can't get too close because then it's like, what's the point?
Right.
You know,
No,
it's
no.
already been done phenomenally well by them. You can't beat that, you know. So I had to do my thing, but also bring those melodies, which they ring through my head every day. Any moment I could sing the melodies of any one of their songs. It's just something about it in terms of how it feels to the heart.
Right.
What they did really goes to the center of the heart and makes me smile, you
Mm.
know. And we were getting more and more. Now I say we, almost all of us were doing things that were so complex that it became more and more musicians' music. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. No, away from the heart, and I love that. It makes you. I love that description. It makes you smile and it makes you feel good.
I can name songs and you will smile, like The Ticket to Ride,
Right.
you know,
Totally.
Paperback Rider, Day Tripper.
Come
I mean,
together.
it's come together. Yeah, it just goes on and on and
Right.
on.
You
You know,
can't go
it's
wrong with that stuff, is what you're saying. I mean, it's just.
no, and you listen to it now, it's fresh, it's phenomenal.
Do you have a guitar near you?
I kind of do.
You want to grab it and maybe make a little aloha happen for Hawaii?
A little taste.
I love it.
I had to do this. This was a project of passion that I wanted to do.
A beautiful record. It's across the universe. Al's latest attempt at tackling a group that had a huge influence on him. It's called Across the Universe from the great Al Di Meola. It's out now. Came out in mid-March, right as our country and our world fell into a very, very deep and uncertain crisis. And I hope that you had fun today. You've been very, very generous. I'm a huge fan of yours. I love talking to you. And
Thanks so much.
I'm rooting for a lot of success in the future for you, my brother.
Well, as well as I wish everyone well and to make it through this so that we can all return to doing what we do and seeing all of you again, my wife and I and Our daughter Ava had a tremendous time in Honolulu, so we hope to be back. Everybody stay well, and we'll talk again.
Stay safe, my brother. Seriously.
You too.